And as experienced inner workers, I know that you're ready to embrace this new radical idea. Perhaps some of you have heard it before, but the radical idea is that the only person who is responsible, who can be the source of your happiness, is you. And listen, I really want to acknowledge that from an early age, we are taught an outside-in approach to happiness. That is to say that when you were little, when I was little, we learnt that if we did the thing, if we got a good grade in school, if we kicked the winning goal in the game, if we, pleased mum and dad, that not only would other people be happy, but we would also be happy. As we got older, we started to learn the idea or the notion that if I get the boy, I'll be happy. If I get the girl, I'll be happy. If I get married, then I'll be happy. If I get the job, I'll be happy. And when I earn a certain amount of money, then we'll be happy. And then possibly, if I weigh a certain amount, if I look a certain way, then I'll definitely be happy. And what we know about all of this stuff is that it's extrinsic or outside of self. And we're relying on outsides or other people or other things to be the source of our happiness. And so what we want to do is notice that in any of those circumstances, what we realize is that those experiences have only ever been temporary forms of happiness at best, and sometimes not even that. Think back to a time when you experienced happiness and get to the source of that happiness. Was it external or was it internal? And if it was external, how long did that happiness actually last? Also, look at a time where you've experienced being unhappy and check out whether or not that unhappiness has been the result of an external thing or an external person being the cause or the source in your mind of that unhappiness. Now at this stage you may be thinking, but Em, I really love my flat screen TV, it makes me happy. Or I really love my Mercedes Benz, it makes me happy. And I get it, when I look back in my life, there are times, there are events, there are things in my life that do make me happy, I do like the house I live in. I do remember being on holidays in Greece. I do recall with fondness the moment when my partner proposed to me. But here's the kicker. Whilst I could easily make up that the reason for my happiness was based on the event or where I was or the thing I had or the house I live in, really what the source of my happiness is in my interpretation of the event, my interpretation of the experience of being proposed to, my interpretation of the house that I live in. Does that make sense? Said another way, it starts to become clear that my view of the world or your view of the world is caught up in the interpretation of your world. And so if you truly are the source of your own happiness, there's a few things that we want you to do to master this. This is your opportunity to evolve your relationship with self and to become masterful as being the source of your own happiness. Imagine that. So the first step, as you would know from inner work, is to get curious and to begin to observe what you already do. And I'm clear this is not about shaming yourself. This is not about looking back into your life and going, oh my goodness, for my whole life, I've seen my world through the lens of other people being responsible for my happiness. Or I'm going to shaming yourself for finding happiness based on external factors. Just ask yourself, am I happy based on those things? And do I rely on those things for my happiness? So that's step one. Get curious about your view and ask those questions. Step 2 is to take responsibility for your filter or for your perspective of the world. And that includes not blaming or holding other people responsible for your happiness. It includes not blaming events or circumstances for your happiness. So it's really about taking responsibility and taking ownership in a way where you get to be happy in spite of or despite other people or despite the circumstances in your life. And step 3 is to make choices in line with your values that will bring you more happiness. So just going over those 3 things one more time. Step 1, get curious about your view so that you can produce a shift change. Step 2, take responsibility for your view, including taking responsibility anytime you go or your mind goes to blame outside influences, things or people. And step 3, make choices aligned with your values to then cultivate increased happiness from the inside out. I promise you, if you take on these 3 steps, you will empower yourself to be the source of your happiness.